The month of November is observed as CARICOM Energy Month to raise awareness on energy matters in the Caribbean and to celebrate the progress CARICOM has made to transition to a clean energy pathway. This year's observance is being held under the theme Empowering People, Building Resilience. Locally, some activities have been planned by the Energy Unit in the Ministry of Communications, Works, Energy and Labor. So in this edition of Government in Focus, I will be speaking with the Director of Energy, Mr. Kenrick Bruke. He'll be speaking with me about the significance of Energy Month, the activities planned, and as he is the new Director of Energy, he will also share his vision for the energy sector on Montserrat. Welcome to the program, Mr. Bruke. You were recently appointed as the new Director of Energy on September 1st. Now that you've settled into your post, tell us what are your plans for the energy sector here, or the energy unit?
Okay, firstly, I would like to thank again the staff at MCWL for their warm welcome and the general public of Montserrat for the welcome. This has allowed me to actually get straight into work. It has allowed me to transition very quickly. The unit is really twofold. There are two components to the unit that we're looking at. One is in relation to the execution of projects. So there are some projects that is already in train that we will continue with. And also the regulatory framework of the unit is the other section or the other component that we are actually working on, which is looking at the details of the function of the unit and the role of the unit and how the unit interacts with the other arms of government and how it interacts with the public. We're also looking at in terms of the capacity, in terms of the staffing of the unit itself, and also in terms of the skill set and the capacity building that is required.
Right. Now, the energy sector here in Montserrat is guided by the Montserrat Energy Policy 2016 to 2030.
Right.
What is the ultimate goal of this policy, and how is Montserrat doing in terms of meeting that goal?
Okay. Right. So there are three well-crafted documents that is basically guiding the unit itself. As you just spoke about is the energy policy itself, which guides us from 2016 to 2030. There's also the energy strategy, and there's also an action plan. These three documents together is what is really guiding the way forward. The policy basically have four primary objectives, right? It's in terms of energy conservation. It's really having a modernized energy economy, looking at the increase in penetration of renewable energy onto the national grid. And it also looks at the regulatory framework that is required to grow and improve the sector itself. With these four primary objectives, there are 15 strategic areas that the policy also looks at. A few of these includes the domestic sector, the agriculture sector, the tourism, looking at the power generation component of it, public awareness. Those are different things that the policy looks at. Now, the action plan itself is broken down into three components. There are three phases to the action plan. You have a phase which is from 2016 to 2020, which is speaking more towards the improving the efficiency of the energy sector. And then you have a phase that looking from 2021 to 25, which is looking at the economy, how the energy can actually improve the economy. And then a phase from 2026 to 2030, which is actually looking at greening the economy or sustaining the greening of the economy itself. Now, the initial goal back in 2016 was for 20% of the generation, was 100%, of the generation for the electric sector to be generated by a renewable source of energy. We are slightly behind that goal at this point in time. However, at that stage when it was actually implemented, it was heavily reliant on the geothermal providing a major component of that 100%. Since then, we have actually altered our strategies, and we do think that in time we will meet that goal.
Good. Right, so are there any challenges that would require extra work to help us to achieve the goal in the policy itself?
From a technical standpoint, I think we know where we want to go. We know what we want to do. We have a list of projects that we'd like to execute. And even if there's gaps in terms of capacity, in terms of gaps in terms of the know-how, there are regional and international bodies that is ready and willing to support us in that regards. However, where we shortfall is on the funding. I think that is a critical area that we need to address, and that is the major challenge within the unit itself. So what we have to look at is we usually get grant funding, but we probably will start to have to look at other financing mechanism that is worthwhile for the island itself, and financing mechanism that in the end doesn't impact significantly on the ratepayer. So that's what we're looking at as well.
So let me ask you this then. What are the top three priorities, let's say top priorities for your unit for the remainder of 2019 and into 2020?
Right, so I just touched briefly on the geothermal project. I know this is a project that is at the heart of Montserratians. Being that it's a project that has been given a lot of coverage and persons are interested to see where this project goes and what is happening. As an update to the project itself, most of us already know that there were 2 successful wells dug, and the third well wasn't so successful. But however, these are significant assets to the island and assets that should be developed at some point in time. What we're looking at now is what strategies going forward that we can implement to ensure that the successful implementation of a surface plant will also result in a tangible benefit to the ratepayers, because at the end of the day, that is what is critical. We want to ensure that the benefits of these particular project are to the people of Montserrat. So that is the only project that is of priority. So now it's really trying to see what sort of financing mechanism that we can actually access at the best rate possible.
Right.
The second thing is that our transportation sector is another critical component that I've recognized. 25% of Montserrat GDP is spent on fossil fuel importation. This equates to roughly about 42, 41 million EC annually, right? Of that, 47% of that is spent on the transportation sector, which is a huge burden in general on the island itself. So we have to look at creative means of targeting that area, right, and trying to reduce that particular consumption. One of the things that we have done as part of another project was to actually purchase an electric vehicle. This electric vehicle is critical to what we are moving forward to. What we want to do is to highlight to the public the advantage of using this vehicle or changing or converting to an electric vehicle. And we want to show it in terms of the island setting, because a lot of persons would have heard about it in relation to other islands, but they want to know, what is it like in Montserrat? Does it make sense to have one? So that's what we want to demonstrate. Besides that demonstration, we also have some surveys within that pilot project that we are looking at doing, where we want to actually engage the public, get their feedback as it relates to the transportation sector. What I've recognized since I've been here is that there isn't a robust public transportation system, and as a result, you have a significant number of private transportation that will typically transport 1 or 2 persons. There isn't the efficient use of that. So we want to engage the public to see what strategies that we can implement. If it's a case where we can have a ride-share app or, inventive stuff. In the 21st century, we're looking at new ways of getting persons to actually reduce their consumption. So we'll be engaging the customer, the public in that regards.
Right. Okay. So the transportation sector, as you've mentioned there, and you spoke about the electric vehicle pilot project. When are we expecting to see the surveys being done?
Right. So we are basically wrapping up in relation to the project document itself. We'll have an internal review of that project document. After that is done, we'll be looking at maybe the end of November to start the implementation of that particular project. I just want to go back to the question you asked previously, just to add the third component that I'll be focusing on next year. Now, we are looking at different resources, different indigenous resources that we can actually use to transition the island itself from a fossil fuel base to a renewable energy based island. So one of the areas that we are now looking at as well too is wind. And the thing about wind is not an easy resource that you can actually simply, like a solar, where you can just simply put a solar panel and you have the access to that particular energy. What we are going to do and what we're going to engage in is actually doing a wind resource assessment. We are now in discussions about financing and that component of it. And what that will do, it will inform us in terms of what location, what site is best suited for the implementation of a wind turbine. And with that information, we will install a wind mask, which is basically used to data log the wind speed in that location and give us an idea of what sort of power can be generated from that. So those are three of the main things that I have for next year.
Okay, great initiatives there that we look forward to hearing more about. Another initiative that was spoken about quite a bit is the solar power project. Is there any update or any plans that you could give us at this point in time?
Correct. Right, so the solar project is done in two phases. The first phase has been completed, so we installed 250 kilowatts of panels. The second phase is going to be a 750 kilowatt with a 1.2 megawatt hour of battery storage. Now, this second phase of the project is quite interesting, and it's a launch of a new dimension in terms of what we are aiming to do where energy is concerned. With this project, it's going to have a dual functionality. One functionality will be similar to a generator that you have in the grid, where it's producing energy that serves the grid. However, we recognize that we are building resilience. As the theme of this year Energy Month is, part of that is to create critical facilities and provide power for critical facilities. So the second function will be in the event of outage on the grid, the battery plus the PV system will provide power to essential services such as the hospital, the MCA, and the airport. Those areas will actually be fed and have power so that continuity of operation is not hampered.
Right, energy consumption seems to be very high on Montserrat, not only in the communities, in our private lives, but across the service as well. Would your unit be looking to see how you can assist persons in terms of getting them to reduce their usage?
I'm happy you raised that question because that's something I think is important. I've said this time and time again. It is important for the unit to engage the public. Because the public has an integral role to play in this transition. And as a way of having that engagement, we as a unit will be embarking soon on a process what we call own-use reduction. And we're looking at it twofold. Own-use reduction in relation to the public sector, as in looking at government buildings and seeing what projects and possibilities in terms of doing energy audits for government buildings, and also on the side of domestic and commercial customers who have consumption above a certain value, let's say above 300 kilowatts. Those customers, what we'll do, they can actually come to the unit, call on the unit, and the unit will provide a service of actually going through the premises and seeing what options or what possibilities that exist for reducing their energy consumption. That is something that we'll be doing.
All right, lovely. Now, energy is obviously something that affects all of us, so we certainly look forward to hearing the updates on that. Now let's switch our conversation to actually speaking about CARICOM Energy Month. Why is it so important for the region and Montserrat to observe this month?
Right. So CARICOM Energy Month started back in 2014. Back then it was just 1 week. I think in 2014 and 2015 it was done a week. But I think what was recognized was that this week was not enough because of the importance of energy to the region. Energy is critical for the development of the region, and as such, we recognize that even a month is not sufficient. We would like to do it for a year, but obviously that's not possible. So the aim of the Energy Month is really to create awareness and also to create a conversation about energy and to highlight the opportunities that exist for businesses, for communities, for different persons that they can actually tap into for that. That's the aim of Energy Month.
Right. In my introduction, I would have given the regional theme for CARICOM Energy Month. What theme are we using here?
Right. So we are actually using the regional theme as well.
Okay.
That's the norm in these situations. So the theme basically is empowering people, building resilience. So what we're looking at is, as I say, is twofold: empowering people. And what we want to do is to engage the public, particularly the students. We want them to be as involved as much as possible, be aware, and be willing to participate in the process of this transition that we are trying to make. The other part is resilience. Now, we are quite aware of what Dorian would have done in Abaco and Freeport. And as a result, it's important for us to build with resiliency, built in such a way where our building can withstand and also be able to actually have continuity just after we have a storm.
Yeah.
And that's what we are also looking at as well.
All right, lovely. So what are the activities planned here in Montserrat to observe CARICOM Energy Month?
Right, so there are several activities that we have planned. First, it starts with some focus groups. I think, again, empowering people, that's the theme here as well. We want to hear what the people have to say. So we have an invited focus group where we are engaging persons from the community just to hear their take on the energy sector and to see what transition they would like to have on the sector itself. These focus groups will have guided questions, but also we'll have an open floor for persons to provide suggestions and recommendations in terms of going forward. Recommendation that the unit will definitely hear and see whether or not is the best strategy going forward for the island. We also have open air awareness community meetings. So there are 2 meetings that is proposed for this month. We're going to have one at the Braids Art and Educational Center on the 20th. That begins at 7 p.m. And we are encouraging the public to actually come out to these meetings. Additionally, we're going to have one in Salem on the 28th. The location has not been, the venue, has not been finalized, but in due course, we will actually inform the public again. Again, we're extending an invitation to the public for that. Besides these, we're also looking at a school tour. Again, we're stressing on the youths. So we're having a school tour where we'll tour the different facilities in terms of renewable energy facilities that we have and engage the youths in terms of what is possible from an energy standpoint. We'll also do some training as well to provide some information that they can actually use back at their home as well. Besides that, we have 3 attractive competitions that we hope to engage the public with. The first competition is basically an essay type competition, which is open to students between 12 and 20 years, which is basically secondary, certainly tertiary educational persons. The aim here is to write an essay that is between 1,200 to 2,000 words based on the theme itself, right? Empowering people, building resilience. One of the key things that we want to do here as well too is to create what we call an energy ambassador. We would like somebody to be the face of the unit. We would like somebody a young person, to be seen as the person, whenever we are doing any function or any activities, we would like that person to be the face that person can say, oh, this is our energy ambassador for the next year or so. We also have a poster competition. A poster competition is really geared for students between 5 years and 15 years. In this competition as well, we allow for it to be done as a group because we're looking at the younger age students. And what they're doing is creating a poster, again, based on the theme, and write just a small 2 or 3 paragraphs in relation to what they would have actually done on the poster itself. The aim is, again, this is something that we have not finalized, but it's something that we are thinking of doing, is to also have that poster replicated and placed at ports of entry, at the airport and at the seaport, so that these persons can be noted for their contribution that they have given to the energy unit and to Montserrat as a whole. The third competition now is open to the public. Here we are looking at, everybody have a smartphone, and we have budding videographers that would like to express themselves in different ways. So this competition is open to the general public, and what we're asking the general public to do is to basically create a 2-minute video that highlights, again, the theme. And that video can be posted on MCWL Facebook page, and then we will have attractive prizes for the winners of those competitions.
Okay, you mentioned attractive prizes, so I have to ask you about the incentives. I know you would have mentioned the incentives associated with the essay competition, being an ambassador and so forth, but what are the other incentives that you plan to offer?
So there are prizes of value for the winner of the essay competition is $800. I think second place is about $500 and third place $400. In relation to the poster, winners $700, that is $500 for the second place, and then $350 for third place. Now the video, again, I think is quite attractive. If I wasn't the director of energy, I would have probably participated in this particular competition. It's $1,500 for the winner, right? $1,000 for second place, and I think it's $800 for third place. So it's quite attractive prices that we are offering for this competition.
Right. Well, I certainly hope that you have a high level of
I
participation.
do hope so as well.
Right. Any final comments as we wrap up our discussion here today?
Right. As I said earlier, I think it's important to engage the community. I think whatever transition that we're hoping to have here, it is important that all hands are on deck. And I would like for all hands to be on deck going in the same direction. And that's why I think these community awareness and these focus group meetings, I would like persons to come to me and say to me, this is what I would like to see happen. This is what I would like to see happen to my great country. This is the direction that I would like to go. And I will take that on board. I'm always willing to listen to what people have to say, because I think as long as you get buying into what you're doing, you're able to do what you want to do. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Great message to end on. Thank you so much, Mr. Burke, for talking with me today. And thank you to our listeners and viewers. I hope that you would participate in the competitions as presented here by Mr. Burke, and go out and support the focus group discussions, the public discussions, as we transform the energy sector here on Montserrat. Thank you for tuning in to Government in Focus. I am your host, Director of Information and Communication, Fiona Alexander Smith. Thanks for watching.